There's a photograph sitting in an Interpol database right now. A face that hasn't aged in decades. A name that makes veteran detectives go quiet. Somewhere in Europe, maybe in a quiet village in Spain, maybe on a busy street in Berlin, someone is living a normal life. They buy groceries, they smile at neighbors. They've built an identity so convincing that even they might believe it. But beneath that surface is a crime so calculated, so brutal, that entire nations have never stopped searching. This is not a story about criminals who got caught. This is about the ones who disappeared, the ones still out there. Tonight, we're entering the darkest corners of Europe's most wanted list, where the hunt never ends and the shadows never fade. Europe keeps secrets. Ancient cities, hidden passages, borders that have shifted dozens of times. And somewhere in all that history, criminals have learned to vanish. The European arrest warrant system tracks thousands. Interpol red notices flag hundreds more. But there's a smaller list, a darker one. These are the cases that haunt investigators, the crimes so severe, the escapes so perfect, that entire task forces have been built around single names. Some have been running for 5 years, others for 50. Let's meet them. Paris, November 2015. The Bataclan Theater, the Stade de France. Café terraces filled with people who thought they were safe. When the gunfire stopped, 130 people were dead. The world watched as France mourned. Arrests were made, trials followed. But one man slipped through every net. His name appears in encrypted communications, in safe-house records, in the testimonies of captured operatives. He's called the Architect. Not because he built bombs, though he may have. Not because he carried weapons, though investigators believe he did. He's called that because he designed the plan, the logistics, the escape routes. Intelligence agencies across Europe have traced his movements. Belgium, Germany, the Netherlands. Then, nothing. Some believe he died in Syria. Others think he's still in Europe, living under a forged identity so sophisticated it includes a decade of manufactured history. The manhunt involves 17 countries, facial recognition at every major airport, informants embedded in networks from Brussels to Istanbul. But the Architect understood something most fugitives don't. To disappear, you don't run. You become someone else entirely. Davos, Switzerland, January 2019. A private security convoy carrying diamonds worth 43 million euros. The road winds through mountain passes where cell service cuts in and out, where winter fog makes visibility almost zero. That's when they struck. 3 vehicles, precision timing, military-grade equipment. The entire operation lasted 4 minutes. No shots fired, no injuries, just a convoy left empty on a mountain road and a trail that went cold in the snow. Swiss authorities called it the most sophisticated heist in modern European history. The diamonds were never recovered. The team was never identified. Except for one detail. Highway cameras caught a partial license plate. That plate traced back to a vehicle reported stolen 3 years earlier in Turin. And in Turin, investigators found something strange. The car had been seen multiple times, always near high-value transport routes. Someone had been watching, planning, for years. Interpol gave him a designation, Alpine Ghost. But who is he? Former military is the leading theory, someone trained in reconnaissance, someone who understands how security teams think. There are whispers in the criminal underworld, a name that surfaces occasionally in encrypted chats, a specialist, a planner who never participates in the actual crime, but sells the blueprint to the highest bidder. If that's true, the Davos heist wasn't his first, and it won't be his last. Luxembourg, 2011. A senior executive at one of Europe's most discreet private banks noticed something wrong with the accounts. Transactions that didn't match, decimal points shifted, money moving through shell companies in Cyprus, Malta, the Cayman Islands. Someone was siphoning funds, not millions, billions. The investigation revealed a scheme so complex it involved 37 entities across 14 countries, fake investment portfolios, phantom clients, documents signed by people who didn't exist. At the center of it all was a man named Gregor Malhotra, mid-40s, impeccable credentials, spoke 6 languages, had worked in finance for 2 decades. When authorities moved to arrest him, they found his apartment empty. Not just abandoned, erased. No fingerprints, no DNA. Even the furniture was generic, bought with cash and left behind. His passport was fake. His employment history was fake. Even his university degrees were expertly forged. Gregor Malhotra had never existed, but the man behind that name had stolen 2.7 billion euros. Investigators traced him to Vienna, then Prague, then the trail went dark. Here's what keeps financial crimes units awake at night. They don't know if he's one person or a network. They don't know if the money is still moving or buried in accounts they'll never find. And they don't know if he's already operating under a new name. Somewhere in Europe, someone is working at a bank, or an investment firm, or a hedge fund, building trust, studying systems, waiting. Antwerp, Belgium, 2016. Belgian federal police raided a warehouse on the outskirts of the Diamond District. Inside, they found a drug lab unlike anything they'd seen before. Not just large, sophisticated. Industrial-grade equipment, ventilation systems designed by someone who understood chemistry at a graduate level. Production capacity estimated at 1 ton of synthetic drugs per month. But when the raid happened, the lab was empty. Equipment still warm, chemicals still in beakers, like someone had walked away mid-process. They found one thing, a partial fingerprint on a glass slide. The print matched a man named Viktor Sidorov, Russian national, PhD in organic chemistry, no criminal record. Except Viktor Sidorov had been reported dead in a car accident in Moscow, 2009. Europol now believes Sidorov faked his death and moved west. For 7 years, he operated drug labs across Europe, Netherlands, Germany, Poland. Each lab was abandoned before authorities arrived, each time just minutes ahead of the raid. How? Someone's tipping him off. Or he's monitoring police communications. Or, and this is what worries investigators, he has access to law enforcement databases. Sidorov represents a new kind of criminal, educated, methodical, invisible. He doesn't fit the profile, doesn't operate like traditional networks, and that makes him almost impossible to find. Copenhagen, Denmark, 2008. A university student named Mette Hansen missed her morning class. Friends called her apartment. No answer. When police entered, they found her belongings, her phone, her wallet, her keys, but no Mette. Security footage showed her entering a nightclub the previous evening. At 1:47 a.m., she left with a man. Dark hair, leather jacket, confident posture. The footage captured them walking toward the waterfront. Then, nothing. No body was ever found, no evidence of foul play, except for one thing. The man in the footage matched descriptions from 4 other cases: Stockholm, 2006, Hamburg, 2009, Amsterdam, 2010. Young women, last seen with the same type of man, never seen again. Europol connected the cases in 2012. They called him the Phantom. But who is he? Profilers believe he's intelligent, charming, knows how to avoid cameras, knows how to make people disappear without a trace. Some think he's ex-military. Others believe he studied forensics and knows exactly how investigations work. The last confirmed sighting was in Oslo, 2013. Then, silence. Did he stop? Did he leave Europe? Or did he just get better at hiding? Families of the missing still wait, still hope, but every year that passes makes hope harder to hold. There's a room in Lyon, France that most people will never see. Europol headquarters, the Fugitive Task Force Division. Walls covered with photographs, red strings connecting locations, timelines stretching across decades. These are the investigators who never stop. We spoke with sources familiar with these operations. They described the work with a kind of quiet obsession. Every lead followed, every tip investigated, every rumor traced. Because here's the thing about Europe's most wanted. They're good at hiding, but they're still human. They make mistakes. A phone call to family, a social media account under a fake name, a moment of nostalgia that brings them back to a familiar place. That's when they get caught. Spain, 2022. A routine traffic stop in Alicante. The driver's license was perfect, the insurance documents checked out, but the officer noticed something. The man's hands were shaking, not nervous, trembling. The officer asked him to step out, ran the plates again, this time through Interpol's database. A flag appeared. The man standing beside that car was Francesco Lupino, wanted by Italy for 17 years, mafia connections, multiple homicides, a fugitive who'd been living 20 kilometers from the beach under the name Carlos Mendez. He'd built a life, married, had children, owned a small restaurant. Almost made it. Almost. Not every fugitive stays gone. Paris, 2019. A man walked into the French police headquarters and asked to speak to a detective. He sat down, gave his real name, confessed to a murder that happened in 1997. Jean-Paul Mercier, wanted for 22 years. When asked why he came back, he said something investigators still talk about. I couldn't live with the weight anymore. He'd been in Portugal, living under a false identity, working in construction, but every year the guilt got heavier. He turned himself in. Now he's serving a life sentence. Some might see that as justice. Others might see it as the only escape he had left. Here's what's changed in the last decade. Facial recognition, biometric passports, AI-powered surveillance. It should be impossible to disappear. But the smartest fugitives have adapted. They don't avoid technology, they use it. Forged digital identities, encrypted communications, cryptocurrency. One investigator told us, we're not just hunting people anymore. We're hunting ghosts in a digital system that was supposed to make hiding impossible. There's a marketplace most people don't know exists. Hidden forums, encrypted servers, accessed only through specific software. And on these forums, you can buy a new life. Passports, driver's licenses, birth certificates, university degrees. For the right price, you can become anyone. Some of Europe's most wanted have gone this route. purchased identities so detailed they include years of manufactured history. Background checks pass, document verification passes, they're invisible. Europe's greatest strength is also its vulnerability. The Schengen area, 27 countries, no internal border checks. Once you're in, you can move freely. A fugitive can cross from Portugal to Poland without showing ID, can disappear into cities of millions. Law enforcement agencies cooperate, share databases, coordinate operations, but there are gaps, and the smart ones know where those gaps are. There's a woman in Brussels who sets an extra plate at dinner every night for a daughter who disappeared in 2007. She doesn't believe her daughter is dead. She believes she's out there, somewhere. Maybe held, maybe hiding, maybe too afraid to come home. This is what the families of victims live with. Not closure, not answers, just absence.
In Madrid, there's a retired police inspector named Carlos Vega. He worked the Alpine ghost case for 11 years. He's been retired for 3, but he still keeps files, still follows leads on his own time. When asked why, he said, because someone has to remember, someone has to care. This is the human side of the hunt, the people who refuse to let these cases go cold, who believe that justice, even delayed, still matters. So here's what we're left with. Faces on wanted posters that haven't changed in years. Crimes that remain unsolved. Victims who never got justice. And somewhere in Europe, maybe closer than we think, people are living double lives. They wake up, go to work, blend in, but they carry secrets that would destroy everything. How do they live with that? How do they sleep? Or do they ever really rest? The European arrest warrant system will keep searching. Interpol will keep flagging. Task forces will keep investigating. But the truth is this: some fugitives are never found. Some crimes are never solved. Some mysteries remain forever unanswered. And maybe that's the most disturbing part. Not that these people exist, but that they're so good at hiding, we might pass them on the street and never know. The next time you're traveling through Europe, look around. That quiet man reading a newspaper in Vienna, that woman running a cafe in Lisbon, that friendly stranger who gave you directions in Prague. Could be anyone, could be no one, or could be someone the authorities have been searching for years. Europe's most wanted aren't always hiding in shadows. Sometimes they're hiding in plain sight, and the hunt continues.